Nija Parayor Bhalayor Rathang Nivesya Stitavati Bharasanik Hayor Akshina Pritavati Partha Sakevratir Mamashtu Shapadi Saki Vacho Nishamya Madhye Nija Parayor Bhalayor Rathang Nivesya Stitavati Parasanikaya Akshina Pritavati Partha Sakirati Mtastu Shapari Saki Vacho Nisamya Madhye Nija Parayor Bhalayor Rathang Nivesya Stitavati Parasanikaya Akshina Pritavati Partha Sakirati Mtastu Sapadi Saki Vacho Nisamya Madhye Nija Parayor Bhalayor Rathang Nivesya Stitavati Parasanikaya Akshina Pritavati Partha Sakirati Mtastu Shapadi on the battlefield. Sakivacha, command of the friend. Nishamya, after hearing. Madhye, in the midst. Nija, his own. Parayo, and the opposite party. Balayo, strength. Rathang, chariot. Nivesya, having entered. Stitavati, while staying there. Parasainika, of the soldiers on the opposite side. Ayu, duration of life. Akshna, by looking over. Pritavati, act of diminishing. Partha, of Arjuna, son of Pritha, Kunti, Sakhe, unto the friend, Rati, intimate relation, Mama, my, Ashtu, let there be. Translation and purport. By His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada ki. In obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Sri Krishna entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana. And while there, he shortened the lifespan of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna. That's pretty powerful. Krishna, just by his glance, merciful glance, he shortened the lifespans of the enemy, the opposite party. That's Krishna. People go to war and they gotta fight so hard to win the Krishna just by his glance. Of course, there was fighting going also, but it's interesting here that by his merciful glance. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 1:12, 21 to 25, Arjuna ordered the infallible Lord Sri Krishna to place his chariot between the phalanxes of the soldiers. He asked him to stay there until he had finished observing the enemies he had to face in the battle. When the Lord was so asked, he at once did so, just like an order carrier, and the Lord pointed out all the important men on the opposite side, saying, quote, "Here is Bhishma, here is Drona," unquote, and so on. The Lord, being the supreme living being, is never the order supplier or order carrier of anyone, whoever he may be, but out of his causeless mercy and affection for his pure devotees, sometimes he carries out the order of the devotee like a waiting servant. By executing the order of a devotee, the Lord becomes pleased, as a father is pleased to carry out the order of his small child. This is possible only out of pure transcendental love between the Lord and his devotees. And Bhishma Dev was quite aware of this fact. He therefore addressed the Lord as the friend of Arjuna. The Lord diminished the duration of life of the opposite party by his merciful glance. It is said that all the fighters who assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained salvation by personally seeing the Lord at the time of death. Therefore, his diminishing the duration of life of Arjuna's enemy does not mean that he was partial to the cause of Arjuna. Factually, he was merciful to the opposite party because they would not have attained salvation by dying at home in the ordinary course of life. Here was a chance to see the Lord at the time of death and thus attain salvation from material life. Therefore, the Lord is all good, and whatever he does is for everyone's good. Apparently, it was for the victory of Arjuna, his intimate friend, but factually it was for the good of Arjuna's enemies. Such are the transcendental activities of the Lord, and whoever understands this also gets salvation after quitting this material body. The Lord does no wrong in any circumstance because he is absolute, all good at all times. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksham Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kotuvachalang Pangunang Hayate Grim Yat Kripataraham Vande Shigurum Dinadaranam Vanchakalpatuyavyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Patitanam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare. This is the greatness of Krishna. Prabhupada says in one purport that the ultimate greatness of Krishna is that he becomes subordinate to his devotee. He takes pleasure in this. Here it says, in obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Shri Krishna entered the arena like a menial servant. You know, he was like a taxi driver, an Uber driver. You know. Krishna's just driving Arjuna around on his order. On his order. So this is the greatness of Krishna. Although he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can very, with great pleasure, be subordinate. Generally people don't like to be subordinate. Right? Everybody wants to be the boss. Right? And there's an amazing pastime of Prabhupada when he was at Dainupan. Dainupan was the printer company back in the early 70s. So Prabhupada was meeting with the Japanese businessmen. And they stepped out to discuss the meeting that they had just had. And there, one person was still there. He was like the subordinate to the others who were having the discussion about how to continue on with this business deal. So Prabhupada asked him, so, what is your goal in life? So there was a bunch of business cards on the table of all the Japanese businessmen there. So he took his card. His card was on the bottom. He took his card from the bottom and he slapped it on the top. He wanted to be the top dog. People want to be the top dog. But here, God is a menial servant. He takes pleasure. And Prabhupada gives the example also of one prime minister. He was to meet with another leader of another country. And this person went to the secretary, and the secretary said, so just wait a while, he's a little busy now. This is the Prime Minister of England. So the man was waiting and waiting. He waited for about an hour, and he thought, what's going on? So he kind of just opened the door and just peeked in. And the Prime Minister, he's on his fours, hands and knees, and his grandchild is on the back, and his grandchild is hitting him, come on, let's go faster. Riding him like a horse. And he loved it, He's Prime Minister, one of the most powerful persons in the world. And his grandson's on his back and telling him, come on, faster. He'd rather do that than meet with one big person from another country. So Krishna takes pleasure in getting chastised by the gopis and being told by Arjuna to go forward. So this is Krishna. Krishna is very humble. Who would think that God is humble? It's like humility is the crown jewel of a devotee. Humility, very important. Tanadapi sunichena taroropi susuna. So Krishna is also humble. Just like at the Rajasuya sacrifice, so many devotees were in charge of different things. Like Karna, he was in charge of giving gifts. He was very charitable. And Bhima was in charge of the kitchen. the prasad distribution. Of course, I'm sure he honored quite a bit himself. So, did anybody know what Krishna was doing? Anybody know? He was washing the feet of everyone. He was washing the feet. And some of them were enemies towards Krishna. He was washing their feet. Of course, Krishna, he's not an enemy towards anyone. Everyone is his part and parcel. So he's equal. Just like a devotee is equal. Yudhisthira, he's known as Ajatasatru, that he was not an enemy towards anyone. Although one may say, well, wait, he's on the battlefield, he's fighting, he's how is that? He's following the order of Krishna, but he doesn't have any ill feelings. So a devotee sees that everyone is a spirit soul. This is how one is able to see equality. It's like there's a statement. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tatikshaya Karuniya Maitra Chikila Chantushu Samadvena Chatharvatma Bhagavan Samprasidati, that Krishna, he's very pleased when devotees approach others with these four qualities. The first one is tolerance. Tolerance. So tolerance is so important. And then what is the most difficult thing we have to tolerate? The most difficult thing we have to tolerate is our own mind. Our own mind. Because as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the mind is a non-devotee. So we have to tolerate it. We've got to carry on. Prabhupada, I was just reading, Prabhupada said that we should be very stubborn servants of Krishna. No matter what the mind says, no matter what's going on externally, we're going to serve Krishna. We should be very stubborn servants of Krishna. No matter what happens, we're going to serve Krishna. I like that. The mind is also very stubborn. It doesn't want to surrender. But we are above the mind. It's like there's gross matter, right? Then there's the senses, then there's the mind, there's the intelligence, then there's the soul. So the mind is determined, it's very stubborn, it doesn't want to surrender to Krishna. But we, the soul, have to be more stubborn. No matter what the mind says, I'm going to continue on serving Krishna. So it's a bit of a battle. There's a battle of Kurukshetra within ourselves. You know, the soul is fighting the mind. You know, there's a little subtle battle going on within our very selves. So we have to defeat the mind. Have to defeat the mind. Not easy. Durjyanam mahammana. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says to Uddhava, of difficult things to conquer, I'm the mind. So it's a big battle. It's a big internal battle that we're having with our mind. So the intelligence is above the mind, so we have to nurture the intelligence to keep the mind down. And, of course, nurture the soul by hearing and chanting, association with the devotees. This keeps the mind down. And eventually, the mind will be conquered. Yeah. Krishna says that the mind can be the friend of the living entity, or it could be the enemy. So when is the mind the friend? The mind is the friend when we're doing things that are pleasing to Krishna. And the mind is the enemy when we're doing things that are not pleasing to Krishna. Yeah. When we're doing things that the mind thinks will satisfy it. Yeah. But we have to act in a way that is pleasing to Krishna. It's like Arjuna in the beginning, he didn't want to fight. So that was not pleasing to Krishna. Of course, he's playing the role. He knew what Krishna wanted and he was going to do it, but for our own benefit, he acted like he wasn't going to do what Krishna wanted. So therefore Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita for our benefit. And one of the first things that Krishna spoke to Arjuna was this point right here, the tolerance. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course of time. It's like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons, and they must be tolerated. We have to tolerate. So much we have to tolerate in this world. So here in this purport, Prabhupada mentions that Krishna pointed out to Arjuna, here is Bhishma, here's Arjuna. I mean, here's Bhishma, here's Dronacharya. And they were both his great teachers. Bhishma, he was the grandfather, the most respected person practically in the whole planet. Bhishma, grandfather Bhishma. So he's now, and he took care of them. He nurtured them from the time they were little babies, practically. He was helping them, the mentor, guru. And Dronacharya, same thing. Dronacharya taught him how to fight. Imagine if you're asked to fight to kill your father. Of course, in the West, it's not a big deal, but because there's not that much respect for it. But Indians, it's like, isn't it? Still, there's a lot of love, respect for the father, isn't it? Indians? Of course, yeah. So Krishna's asking him, kill your grandfather, your most beloved grandfather. Kill Dronacharya. Boy, what a test. What a test. Somehow they were on the wrong side. Due to financial circumstances, they were on the side of Duryodhana, so they couldn't, they were being taken care of financially for years and years. So now the war comes up, they can't just walk away. They had to fight. And this is also an opportunity to show how surrendered a devotee can be. That a devotee can be so surrendered that he's willing to even kill his most beloved grandfather and teacher. That's a very high level of surrender. But we have to surrender. Even to that extent. In the Shastra it stated, what is this surrender process? Anukoyasya sankalpa. Pratikoyasya varjana rakshishititi vishvashu goptrute sharanamyata. To accept that which is favorable. And there's so many things, Prabhupada has given this nice process. There's so many things that are very favorable. From the very beginning of the day, going to Mangalartik. Prabhupada, one time he said, Mangalartik is so important that even if one is so sick that all he can do is crawl, he should go to Mangalartik. Of course, he didn't mean that literally, but he just wanted to emphasize the importance. In other words, it's very important. And he told the GBCs that your duty is to go to each temple and make sure that everybody is following the program. 16 rounds, Mangalartik, Guru Puja, class. He said that was the duty of the GBC. So this morning program, this like sets the day. This sets our day. If we do these things, then our day will be very auspicious. Mangalartik, it's auspicious artik, so our whole day becomes auspicious. And when we're chanting the prayers are so beautiful. When we're chanting these prayers in the morning, the meaning of these prayers should be going in our head. The spiritual master is receiving a benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish, so the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. What a beautiful prayer. Because we're in this fire of material existence, this blazing fire of material existence. So the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, comes to extinguish this blazing fire of material existence. Always chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy. I think there's a video of Prabhupada, or there's pictures also of Prabhupada dancing. And Prabhupada, he was 70 years old. When do you hear 70-year-olds dancing? Prabhupada's danced. The one, he used to, we had the Swami step in the beginning. Prabhupada taught everybody the Swami step. Simple, step. Left, right, left, right. He went to Los Angeles. This is back in 1968 or so. And they were doing the Swami step, and then the kirtan was like really going good. Prabhupada started jumping. He was jumping. Everybody's like, wow, Prabhupada's jumping. Everybody started jumping. Everybody in the temple room started jumping. And it was just like, it was euphoria. It was just like, no, it hadn't happened before. It was the first time in ISKCON. Prabhupada was jumping. And everybody was in ecstasy, jumping. And after the kirtan, devotees were calling temples, Prabhupada's jumping. Prabhupada, what do you mean he's jumping? He's jumping. Prabhupada's jumping. From then on, everybody started really dancing, jumping. So Prabhupada was an ecstatic devotee. Always chanting the holy name, dancing as ecstasy, singing, playing musical instruments. Prabhupada was so expert at everything. Chanting, harmonium. One professional musician, he said Prabhupada's harmonium playing was just like phenomenal. He was just like, he would go all over the place. Just perfect. Perfect pitch, perfect everything. Everything Prabhupada did was just perfect. Yeah. Wonderful. So, spiritual master was always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Dress the deities in beautiful clothes, worship the Lord, engage in other activities. So Prabhupada, I was just reading recently about these deities here. These are very special deities. When the devotees first came to Sydney, there was one Indian man who knew Prabhupada, knew of ISKCON, and he told the devotees, I'm going to bring deities for you. And they said, okay, nice. And they just thought, yeah, right. He said, I'm going to send deities for you here. And they just thought, yeah, sure. So then they moved from that temple and they moved to another place, and the deities came. But they had moved and there was no address to forward, so there was nowhere to, so the deities came here and they went back to England. I think it was England. No, it was India. India. They went back to India. Prabhupada was in Bombay at the time. So then Prabhupada was going to Australia, and this same man said, Prabhupada, I sent some deities to Australia, and they were sent back because they had moved. And Prabhupada said, that's okay, I'll take them. So that's when I think Syamasundar and one devotee from Sweden came. And Prabhupada brought the deities. So they had already come here. They were here before Prabhupada. And they left. And now they're coming back with Prabhupada again. Very special deities. Beautiful. So beautiful, huh? Such beautiful deities. So Prabhupada, he brought deities. He established deity worship all over the world. And everybody is so impressed. Even in India, everybody is so impressed with the deity worship. We have the most beautiful deity worship. And I've been to other temples. We've probably all been to other temples. But the deity worship the standard is not near as high as ISKCON. Because we do the whole, 6 artiks and beautiful clothes. And so we're so fortunate. So this deity worship also, it's very important. It kind of brings out the devotion, right? Yeah. Preaching, it helps us stay with the mission. Mission is so important. The mission that Srila Prabhupada brought, preaching Krishna consciousness. It gives us life. Yeah. But deity worship, it brings out the devotion. Kind of keeps the modes down. Because you have to, You have to show devotion in deity worship. So it's so important. Prabhupada so kindly brought this deity worship all over the world. And then Chaturvadhashi Bhagavat Prasada. Krishna, or Srila Prabhupada, is offering food to the deity. And he's very pleased to see that his disciples are honoring Krishna Prasadam. And Prabhupada was such an expert cook. One devotee went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, who's the best cook in ISKCON? He said, I am. Because he taught everybody how to cook. And in 26 Second Avenue, Prabhupada was cooking. Imagine that. Honoring the prasadam that Prabhupada made. And sometimes these guys are just like off the street, just like drug addicts and, alcoholics, and they're just eating this, the most wonderful prasadam. And sometimes they'd just say, God, he knows how to cook, man. Prabhupada called this is the secret weapon, prasadam. Secret weapon. So prasadam is so important. And Prabhupada was so expert at everything. So this Tulsi Puja also, Tulsi Puja is going on. We should, as the prayers are going on, we should go in our mind. Guru Puja also, just to imbibe the feeling of what we're chanting. It's not that we just chant like parrots, but we should be feeling, what we're chanting. So the prayers are just so beautiful. Like Tulsi Puja, we're praying to Tulsi Devi, please make me a follower of the cowherd Damsel Raj. So we're praying for devotional service. So much prayer that we're going through, and this is purifying. Book distribution also, it's all about prayer. Not only when we get out there, before we go out on book distribution, we're praying, Krishna, please, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, please, help me to be an instrument in your hands to distribute this message. Praying to Tulsi Devi, please, Tulsi Devi, your Lord is Krishna, please give us sincerity so that we can distribute this message of your Lord to the conditioned souls. Then we pray to Prabhupada. It's all about prayer. You go out on book distribution, you're having a hard time. Then we pray. Tattenu kampang susamik samano bunjane vatvikritam vipakam hridvag porviv ridham namaste jiveti yomukti pade sadoyabak. This is, Prabhupada says in in Nectar Devotion, this is the guide for all devotees of Krishna. You all know this verse? Tattenu kampang. You all know it? Very important verse. Because this world is made up of so much difficulty. So Lord Brahma says, seeking your compassion, thus tolerating all difficulties as being due to my own past activities, and always serve me with mind, body, and word, such a devotee is eligible to inherit the kingdom of God. So when there's difficulties, we welcome them. We welcome them. Because that gives opportunity to take shelter of Krishna. That's opportunity to grow. It's like Queen Kunti. She prayed, Vipida Santutasa Tatra Tatra Jagaguru. She prayed, Krishna, please give me calamity. Anybody here ever pray like that? Krishna, please give me calamity. Give me difficulty. Because when difficulties come, she says, then I take shelter of you. And by taking shelter of you, then I overcome the repetition of birth and death. So this is opportunity to grow. And that's why we're here. We want to grow in spiritual life. So we have to do things that are very favorable for devotional service. And Prabhupada set it up so nicely. Everything that we do in ISKCON is meant to help us grow. Everything. And there's 5 things that are most important Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathurava, Srimathura, Shraddhaya Seva. And these are things that we do every morning. Association with the devotees, chanting the names of Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagvatam, living in a holy place. This is a holy place. This temple is not part of Sydney. It's actually it's a spiritual world. We have the Lord here. Of course, we have to be in the right consciousness. Someone can be in the temple here and be in the wrong consciousness, and someone else could be out in the middle of Australia in the bush and be completely Krishna conscious. Right? So it's like sometimes it happens. I met people who, before they joined, they said they would come to the temple just to look at the pretty girls. Sometimes the attractive ladies come to our temple, and they would come just to look at the girl. But then they'd get purified and become devotees anyway. So we had to be in the proper consciousness. Like Prabhupada said, you chant 16 rounds a day, you follow the 4 regular principles, and I promise you, you'll go back to Godhead. But there's a quality of chanting. Not that we just chant. No, we have to have a quality of chanting. And that quality is that we should have a very strong desire to serve Krishna. That's what we're praying for, a strong, sincere desire to serve Krishna. Sometimes people chant. It's very, ourselves, we're chanting and our mind is like, it's all over the place. We're not hearing, inattentive. Chant. So we have to chant very, very attentively. This is what attracts Krishna. If we're chanting and we're not thinking of Krishna, then how can we get the result that we're striving for? Pure devotion for Krishna. No, we gotta yato nischalatin manashchanchanam astiyam tatastato niyamyaitad atmanyeva. Krishna told Arjuna, from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must bring it back under the control of the self. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said the mind has to be beaten in the morning, every morning, 100 times with a shoe, and in the evening with a broomstick. You got to beat that mind down. In the early days, you might have heard this, probably heard this here before. Devotees used to take things very literally. They didn't think it was. They didn't think it was just an analogy, but no, they took it very literally. They'd go down to the basement and get another devotee's shoe, and 100 times they would beat their head. It's like a regular principle. And Prabhupada heard about it and said, no. You beat your mind with your intelligence. So they stopped doing that, but then they lamented because they liked that part of the program. Could have some other devotees show you. So, we beat the mind with the intelligence. You have to hear very nicely, attentively, just like we hear our rounds very attentively. So we have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada said, when you're reading, don't go to the next sentence until you've understood the sentence that you're reading. So this is, that's serious. That's serious reading. And Prabhupada so often he would say, serious and sincere. We have to be serious and sincere. So those words are so similar. That's why I looked it up. Serious means thoughtful. So when we're reading Prabhupada's books, we should be very thoughtful also. He said, he also told Yamuna, he said, when you're reading, you should feel. You should feel what you're reading. Wow, that's an incredible way to read. You should feel what you're reading. Try to really understand what Prabhupada is saying. So that's serious. And then sincere is the word, definition of sincere is genuine. Genuine. Savai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhakti hoksi haiti kyapeti yatma superseded. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it stated, the supreme occupational duty for all mankind is that by which one can engage in loving service to Krishna. And such service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted. I mean, that's sincere. That's genuine. Unmotivated, no motivation other than to please Krishna. That's sincerity. And uninterrupted. That's really sincere. No motivation other than to please Krishna. Just like generally people, there's some motivation in things they're doing. But we're trying to come to the level where the only motivation is we're trying to please Krishna. Yeah. That's our goal. And uninterrupted. Whew. That's serious. Yeah. But if we can come to that level, then Krishna is so pleased. And he gives himself. Then he gives himself. Like sometimes people, there was one scholar, he was translating the Bhagavad Gita. He was a rascal scholar. In the verse Sarvadharmam Parityaja, in his commentary, he says Krishna is asking for too much. His commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Prabhupada called his as it is, because he didn't speculate. Yeah. And all these other Bhagavad Gita as it isn't. Right? Because they're all speculating. So this fool that said that, Krishna's asking for too much, he doesn't know that if we surrender to Krishna, if we give ourselves to Krishna, then Krishna's going to give himself to us. So we come out really ahead if we surrender. And what does it mean to surrender? It means just to be real, to enter into reality. Because what is ours? Nothing is ours. So surrender just means accepting reality. Everything belongs to Krishna. You know, even this body, it's not our body, it's Krishna's body. Everything belongs to Krishna. The houses people own belongs to Krishna. The cars, computers, money, everything belongs to Krishna. Isa vashamedanga sarvam yatkintya jagatyam jagat. Chena chakyena bunjita magradha kasisvidhanam. That everything that exists is owned and controlled by Krishna. Therefore, we should only accept that which we need as our quota and not accept more. And even that which we accept as our quota, that also belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. So surrender just means to be real, to be in reality, that nothing is mine. We come in this world with nothing. It's like there's an interesting incident with Alexander the Great. He was very ill. And he was so ill that he understood, I'm going to die soon. So he told his confidential men there, he said, after I die, I want you to do 3 things which I've learned from life, from living this life. In the coffin, I want you to have my hands like this, hanging out the coffin. Okay. And when I'm being carried, I want to be carried by 6 doctors. I want the coffin to be carried by 6 doctors. And as I'm being carried, I want you to throw my gold coins on the dirt as I'm being carried. Okay. What does this mean? Have my hands out like this to show that when I was born in this world, I had nothing. Empty-handed. And I'm leaving this world with nothing. Nice realization. And the doctors, he said, with all the advancement there is in the medical field, these doctors, they couldn't save me. So have them carry me, carry the body. And the gold coins? He said, I was so wealthy, I was so rich, but now I'm leaving. No more value to me than dirt on the street. So yeah, we're all born in this world with nothing but our desires. We're born with our karma and our desires. So the goal is to leave this world with no desire other than to serve Krishna. Just wipe out all the karma, yeah, all the reactions to our sinful activities, and have no desire other than to serve Krishna. This is our aim. And if we do, then we'll go back to Krishna. It's just like a magnet is naturally attracted to iron, right? Natural attraction. So we also have a natural attraction to Krishna. But there's something in between us and Krishna. And that's our material desires. Just like if there's a piece of iron that gets some rust on it, then if you get a lot of rust on the iron, then the magnet won't be attracted. There won't be any traction anymore. So now we have these material desires, so there's some attraction, but it's not complete. And so by this process, we're removing these unwanted things that are keeping us from attracting Krishna and being attracted to Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that so many people, they want to see God, but a devotee, he acts in such a way that God wants to see him. He's attracted. Krishna's attracted by the devotee who acts in such a way that is pleasing to Krishna. Krishna becomes attracted to him. Yeah. So of course the main obstacles that are keeping us is lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, madness. These are the enemies of the soul. But by this practice of Krishna consciousness, we're scraping away. Just like if you scrape away the rust from the iron, eventually the attraction will be there with the magnet and the iron. So by this chanting and hearing and serving, we're scraping away this rusty lust and this greed and anger and envy and all this contamination. Iti siddhasikam nama kali karnasanasana nata paratarupaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. In the Kali Santarana Upanishad it said that if one wants to be free of all the contamination of this age of Kali and counteract all the sins of this age, there is no alternative other than chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is our hope, that we could chant the holy name attentively, with love. So is there any question or a comment? Yes. Oh yeah, tolerance. I only said one. You're listening closely. Very good. Tolerance, atiksha, karunika. Then compassion. If we're not tolerant, then we can't become compassionate. It's not possible. Because compassion is a very elevated level. You have to be tolerant. Because, especially like when we're preaching Krishna consciousness, there's so much we have to tolerate. And some devotees, they can't do it. So they stop preaching. So tolerance is so important. We can't continue if we're not tolerant. We have to tolerate our minds, mainly, weather, circumstances. So many things we have to tolerate. But I was thinking that we should be, Prabhupada said that we should be stubborn servants of Krishna. No matter what happens, I'm going to serve Krishna. So book distributors, we should have that. We should be stubborn book distributors. No matter what happens, I'm going to distribute books. I'm going to continue on. Yeah. no matter what happens, up to, to the point. I mean, I'll tell you an amazing story of one devotee. His name was Radhanath Das. He's a Prabhupada disciple. At one point he had such conviction. He prayed to Krishna, Krishna, no matter what happens, I'm going to serve you. I'm going to stay in this movement no matter what happens. Shortly after that, he started having trouble with his legs. So he was using crutches. Then it got worse, and he was in a wheelchair. And sometimes he'd be in the wheelchair, and sometimes he'd be on crutches. But then it got so bad, he was just in a wheelchair. And his legs got so bad that they had to be amputated. Yeah. From here up, he was just a torso, and he was still distributing books. To the end of his life, he was distributing books. Just a torso, no legs. He was just completely determined, stubborn. So he just continued on up to practically to the end of his life. He was distributing books. Imagine that. If we have a little store or something, a little inconvenience, we stop distributing. But this is the example. Amazing example. He was just determined. I don't care what happens. He was stubborn. I'm going to continue serving Krishna, and I'm going to continue distributing books. So we should have this stubbornness, to serve Krishna, to give this knowledge out to people, because this is what is most necessary. If we can walk, he couldn't even walk, and he was going out on book distribution. We have so many devotees, they can walk and they can talk, but they're not distributing books. Prabhupada wanted everybody to learn the art of book distribution. And when Prabhupada was here, every week everybody would go out. Once a week, everybody would go out. BBT, cooks, everybody, pujaris. Because Prabhupada understood how important it was for this knowledge to go out. So we should have great determination. So, tolerance, compassion, tatikshaya, karunya, maitra. We have to be friendly to everyone whom we approach. Krishna is very pleased if we're friendly to people. He likes that. Throughout in the Bhagavad Gita, I think there's about 6 places where Prabhupada, where he mentions this. Friendly to all living entities, equal towards friends and enemies. Should be equal to people. Even you should be, even someone is your enemy, you should be a friend to them. Amazing, huh? Equipoise towards friends and enemies. Why? How is that possible? Because one has to see beyond the facade. It's mainly someone is an enemy because the false ego. But a devotee goes beyond the facade, beyond the body, beyond the facade, the ego, and he goes to the soul. Therefore he can be friendly to everyone. Therefore it's stated, Yoga yukto vashuddhatma vejitatma jitendriya sarvbhutatma bhutatma kurunapi nalapyate. That one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone. And everyone is dear to him. He's a friend to everyone. Because of that devotion. Because of that clarity that everybody is a soul. And then the last one, samatvainancha sarvatma, equal towards everyone. So tolerance, compassion, friendly towards everyone, and equality. Everybody is a soul. Beautiful verse, huh? Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.